In this video, we're going to be talking about commenting inside of Python and why you might want to utilize comments. And as you're going through this course, we're going to be utilizing comments a lot. So we want to make sure that you understand how to use comments. And then when you're writing your own code, you're definitely going to want to put comments inside it while you're learning. So let's go ahead and dive right into Visual Studio Code. And I have a file folder set up here. And the setup here is going to be in our Python folder. We're going to follow that up with lessons. And then inside there, we have a brand new file called comments.py. All right. So as far as comments go, on your keyboard, you can hold the shift button down and hit the pound sign if that's what you want to do. But there is a keyboard shortcut that you can use, and that is Control/ or Command/ in your keyboard. All right. So for example, if I wanted to do that, I'll just do Command/. Now I get a little hashtag on there. And let's go ahead and type the word comments in here. And let's go ahead and go on to the next line. So I'm going to go ahead and make a comment on here. Again, I'm going to do the Command/. And comments are used to explain code to make it a little more readable. And it also, when we put comments in there, comments are going to be ignored by the Python interpreter. And what that means is as it sees this little pound sign or this hashtag, it's going to ignore it. It's not going to think that it's code at all. So again, comments are really good for explaining things or keeping you on track. And again, we can run this file right now and there won't be any type of error, even though we typed in human plain English in here. So those are the really good use cases for comments. Let's talk about how we might apply them and what are some examples of. We have single line comments as well as multi-line comments. However, single line comments you've already been exposed to. And let's go ahead and do a multi-line comment to show you what that might look like. And then we're going to show you some code examples, even though we don't know anything about code quite yet, but when you might want to use the comment and what good and bad kind of look like. So with that said, let's go ahead and talk about a multi-line comment. So I'm going to do the hashtag, and then we're going to go ahead and type out here a multi-line comment example. And for that, you can use the double quotes or the single quotes, whichever one that you actually prefer to use, but you need to have triple set of them. And what does that mean? Well, we can do 1, 2, 3, and notice that Visual Studio Code actually completed the remaining 3. So I'm going to hit the enter key to give myself some space, but this is an example of a multi-line comment. Example of multi-line comment. You can type multiple lines in this comment, and they will be ignored by the Python interpreter. So again, that's an example on how you would do this with the multi-line comments. You can use double quotes or single quotes, but you need to have the same type and you need to have 3 sets of them. So that is exactly how we do the multi-line comment versus the single line comment. Now, let's go ahead and talk about why we use these comments and what are some good and bad examples of comments. So when it comes to comments, when do we use comments? So when do we want to use comments? Well, that's going to be for clarification. So we're going to do clarification when we need to clarify some code. We can also do it when we do some documentation of code. This can also assist in readability, and we can also use it to communicate, maybe share insights or intentions of the code. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about We're going to supply you with some code for this. Feel free to type it out, even though you may not know what it's for. But eventually, as we go through the code, you're going to understand. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the code from below this module that you'll see this video. And I'm going to go ahead and paste it in here as a real quick example, and then I'm going to explain some stuff on it, right? So in this example here, we have a comment above some sort of section, and you can visually see that we have a length and a width. Well, why do we have a length and a width? Well, we added a comment up here that says this is going to be utilized to calculate the area of a rectangle. And then, of course, we can put another comment in line. You can see that this is in line. It's not on a separate line. And you'll be able to go ahead and comment on each line if you want to help along with your studies. But this is used to multiply the length and the width to get the area. So again, great example of utilizing a comment, especially going through the class. Maybe if you are in a development position, this comment might not be needed because it's a little bit self-explanatory. Let's go ahead and talk about a bad comment. And we have some examples below the video, and we're going to go ahead and explain some of these here. So the first one that we come here to is, again, I'm going to go ahead and copy this and put it in here. Feel free to type it out. But we have this comment here called, right up here, this is a bad comment. And we have this variable here, a equals 10. And then we have this very bad comment that we see right here, which is assign 10 to a. Well, if we take a look at that, why is that bad? Well, it's because that's really self-explanatory. We can visually see that. Once we get to variables, you're going to realize that a is not a good variable to pick out. But again, if we take a look at this secondary comment here, what makes this better is now we are explaining what this is about. Why is a equal 10? Well, this is the maximum allowed value for a user's input. Now that makes a little more sense, but later on in the course we're going to figure out that this is not a great variable to choose, and maybe something else would be better. All right, but that's examples of bad. Let's take a look at some examples of some decent ones, right? And so again, in our module below the video, you're going to find this. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that and scroll up. So now we know that we're entering a section where the program is going to calculate the total cost of the items. Notice that we have better variable names, and it's almost self-explanatory. But again, we are able to add these nice inline comments to tell us what are these variables doing? What's the purpose of them? Well, this is the price of a single item. This is the number of items that were purchased. Let's go ahead and calculate the cost. All right, again, great comments for looking at this. And then this last one here, we want to output the total cost. And again, we're just printing it to our terminal. So those are some examples of good and bad comments. Again, as a student, I would totally recommend you put comments in your code and comment a lot. Especially, it gives you the power to go back and see what you're thinking. Once you get into the development atmosphere, into a multi-team, it's really good to have some comments in there. However, over time, sometimes comments get lost when you're working with teams, so just realize that. But as an individual user, it's definitely nice to put comments in there for you to revisit, to go back to see what you were actually thinking about back then in order for that code to work or that function. I do it all the time in my personal work, and comments can definitely help retrain or remember what you were thinking when you originally wrote the code. All right. So as a beginner, I highly recommend commenting heavily. And then as you start learning and looking at reading the code, you're going to get more aware, and maybe you won't need as many comments. But definitely starting out, make sure you put some comments in your code, And whenever you're having a review with one of the tutors or mentors, they are going to want to see comments in your code, because that's how they're going to see how your logic is going. All right. So hopefully the comments made sense. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next section. We'll see you in the next video. All right.